Hi everyone, and welcome to today's video on using QuickBooks Online Accountant for practice management. My name is Matthew Pizarski and I'm one of the senior business managers for Intuit Australia. I work predominantly with accounting and bookkeeping firms in New South Wales, but I have worked with firms all across the country as my territories have changed here while working at Intuit. So my background is I am an accountant, but I've spent most of my years in sales, marketing, and systems implementation. So I've actually been helping a lot of accounting firms move their practice to the cloud, and not just their clients. So I'm going to share some of my insights and my learnings and how you can actually use Intuit for practice management and lodge it for tax. So let's kick off today's video. So the agenda is going to be a quick overview. I'm also going to cover the QuickBooks Online Accountant. So anyone that doesn't know on this video, QBOA stands for QuickBooks Online Accountant. It is free for all partners in Australia. So if you don't have one already, jump on board. I'm assuming if you're watching this video, you probably will already have access to this dashboard, which is basically where you access all your clients. So QuickBooks Online Client Billing will be one of the topics I'll cover, the Practice Manager, the Document Manager, including the CRM tool, and the tax lodgement component. So I don't want to bore everyone on this video and just cover a slide deck, so I'll breeze through this relatively quickly, and then we'll jump straight into products so I can show you how you can use QuickBooks as a practice management tool. So at least 50% of Australian small businesses are already using cloud accounting, and the majority of accounting firms already understand the value it brings to their practice and their clients. So it's no surprise there. Obviously, Xero, MYOB, QuickBooks Online, and there's many other players out there that have kind of hit the Australian market, and not just Australia but around the world. So accountants for a while now have been advocates of cloud accounting. For the ones that haven't, that have been a bit late to the journey, they're now slowly starting to get on board and understand the value of cloud and the efficiencies it can bring to their practice. So the benefits of moving practice management into the cloud. So no version control or system upgrades are needed. Smaller chance of data loss versus hosting on a private server. Now this is an interesting one because I usually have a lot of accountants that kind of challenge me and they say, well, you know what, Matt, I think I'm more comfortable having it on a private server, and then our partners and IT team will send a backup copy, and everyone will take it home on a daily basis. Well, that is great, but I've seen many accounting firms where that system has failed. Someone's forgotten to take up a backup copy. Coffee. I'm thinking of coffee, obviously, and the firm essentially, in terms of their data contingency plan, has lost all their data, or it has been compromised to a hacker. So I've seen countless versions of this. In all honesty, if you do the pros and cons, your data is much safer in the cloud than it is on a private server. I used to work with a lot of regional firms, and actually in Queensland specifically, and I've had firms where there's been cases of floodings, because obviously due to the nature of hurricane season, even out west where you might have quite big electrical storms that have completely fried circuits and computers. So as much as you might think that private is much safer, cloud accounting is definitely, if you do a pros and cons list, doesn't matter how you argue it or how you look at it, it is much safer to run off the cloud, especially because the data is generally backed up in different geographies, whether it's within Australia or around the world. And a lot of these agencies, businesses, they're all fully compliant with legislations around the world, and even ATO now, a lot of their systems are online based as well. So reduction in IT infrastructure and labor costs. So you might have an IT person, and it's definitely something that's still very vital to an accounting firm, but obviously there'd be a huge reduction in IT infrastructure and labor costs, just due to the pure efficiencies that it creates. Pre-filled data from ATO. So I know some of the legacy systems have some element of this, but that is one of the benefits as well. You can save a lot of time because the data is pre-filled and pulled from the ATO. And a single ledger, so basically like a live ledger, so what we call in the industry as a single source of truth. So rather than having a traditional ledger such as Reckon XPA, MYOB MAS, Handy Ledger, AO Ledger, there's many more out there. What's the point of having the traditional form of accounting? Whereas, you get the client file, you put it into your ledger system, you put your net movements in, you get all your statutory reporting, your notes. Obviously, there's a lot of kind of manual handling there. Sometimes there's an easy process to kind of import, this in relatively easy. But again, it's just double handling of data. At the end of the day, the accounting industry is moving to more of a single ledger model, and it makes sense. You can have your bank fee attached to that, and even for micro-based or smaller-based clients, they don't have to come to you with a shoebox. You can get them on cloud accounting these days, get them using the receipt capture app to take photos of their receipts, and their bank feeds also come through directly to you as well. So whether they have a bookkeeper or they do it through you at Basel end of year time, that obviously works quite nicely. So a lot of people don't realize, but Intuit actually do have a practice management module in QuickBooks Online Accountant. So it's not something that us as a company have focused on in the last 5 years. It's more so happened in the last 18 months. So for us, it's always been about client accounting. That's basically always been our main product, which is QuickBooks Online. But we do have a practice management option as well. So it's free for accountants and bookkeepers, so there's no cost to this whatsoever. So you can actually sign up through our website if you click on accountants and bookkeepers. Now, in the QBOA, so in the QuickBooks Online Accountant, there is a Your Books file. So if you've ever wondered what that is in there, and I'll show you where that is once we jump into the QuickBooks file. In there, you've basically got a free plus file. So that's completely yours to run your practice in. So basically, your payroll, your client billing, it would all be done in there. So basically from there you can create, invoices for various services. You can have a template for income tax returns, company returns, BAS returns. Whether you're still a traditional firm and have hourly pricing or value/fixed, that's fine as well. We can obviously cater for that. Email invoices and reminders, auto match deposits with invoices. Set up reoccurring invoices, so obviously you don't have to go in and set those up every year if you have clients on monthly retainers or yearly retainers. Use location and classes to differentiate based on measurable difference, so partner A versus partner B, in terms of charge out rates and the type of work that the accountants have actually got through, whether it's going down all the way to a senior accountant, or I should say the other way around, from a partner to a senior accountant versus a junior. Track firm performance in real time, so there's various forms of reporting that you can set up. Don't get me wrong, I think we can still improve in this area, so we can set up different types of KPI reports in the future, but it's in terms of what you need to run your practice, there's more than enough in there already. Weekly timesheets, if you're still using those, even if it's just from a performance metric point of view, and integrating QuickBooks Accountant with Lodgit for contact detail sync and tax lodgement. So Lodgit is one of our exclusive tax lodgement partners in Australia. So the QBOA Practice Manager, which is the Work tab, is accessed under the Work tab, or the client list. So there's a few kind of elements that I'll cover, but you can create projects in QuickBooks and you can assign those to staff. So you can assign those tasks to staff members across the practice. There is the ability to place a time, quote, invoice, expense, or bill against the project. So basically, you can create a new customer walks in. You can put them on a quarterly BAS package with annual compliance at the end of the year. So you can create all the tasks associated with that. You can save that as a template as well, so you don't have to keep obviously keying that in. So every time you have a new customer, you can just select that template and duplicate it, and then you can assign the various tasks to different staff members. And then from there, you can obviously, against that project, you can bill against it and put time against it. You do have the option to use budgets versus actuals, so you can assign classes as employees. So it might be partner A versus partner B versus junior accountant. So the differences between the three of those, you can set up as many classes as you'd like. You can also set up locations if you have multiple locations. Or you can use the classes as activities. So you can use that from more of like a job costing perspective. So advisory versus compliance versus bookkeeping. Create custom reports based on monthly revenue generated per staff member or WIP. Okay, so that can also be set up. Access under the client list from the work tab. So this is our document management and CRM tool. So you can use the shared document manager. So you can send documents between you and the client, even if they don't use QuickBooks. And you can store client details for relationship management. So you can use it as a CRM tool. Now, on the Logit side, I'm not going to cover the full tax suite today because this video is more around the practice management, but I will make a separate video with Andrew around the Logit perspective. So Andrew is the founder of Logit, and we'll take you through the tax lodgement side of things. But basically, at a very high level, fast and secure with bank level encryption and automatic data backup. So again, it's that point that I kind of emphasized on around data contingency plans. At the end of the day, the cloud is a lot safer than having it on premises. Doesn't matter how many times you argue or look at it. QuickBooks client contact detail sync. So obviously QuickBooks works quite nicely with Logit in terms of the customer details that flow across. Full team controls with the ability to limit client form visibility. So you've got all your form types, so tax forms. So you've got BAS, income tax returns, company, partnership, trust, etc. So you can definitely lodge those out of the system. And there's an automated import from QuickBooks Xero MYB account right live. And there's also a mapper as well. So if they're coming off other systems like Sage 1, Reckon 1, even if you have Excel clients, you can obviously map that into Logit. Now the benefit here is obviously there's no need for a ledger system. So basically again going back to that single source of truth, so it's saving you extra money. Now look, don't get me wrong, if you might get rid of your ledger system, one, you might use it, or the other case may be you might not use it. Regardless, you're better off having clients set up on an actual accounting software package, even if they just use it for the bank feed. QuickBooks are always doing great offers for accountants, so you can grab a bundle of subscriptions at a very low cost, and you can have the efficiencies of bank feeds. And now we do have direct bank feeds as well, so an added bonus there. Special purpose financial reports. So that's in there. This again is quite basic, but it's something that is continuing to be built out in the system. There's calculations. So there is a fixed asset register in the Logit system. That includes, you've got different calculators as well on top of that for depreciation, pooling, hire purchases, share register, franking, account, activity statement analyzers, and there's much more in there. So I'll only cover some of that. But again, the main video will be, there'll be another video on the tax side of things, so we'll cover it all in there. So it's inexpensive as well, so I know a lot of accounting firms that are just absolutely cannot wait to get off old systems, so that are just they're just over legacy systems and paying anywhere from 10,000 to 60,000 depending on the firm size for practice management and tax on systems that just haven't been innovated on. So they've been in the market for a long time, and firms are spending a lot of money, which is fine. It's your mission critical system, and it's obviously whatever you need for the practice to run efficiently and work. And look, don't get me wrong, a lot of these systems have done a great job, and they still do a great job. But at the end of the day, these days there's so many more options out there where you can put everything into the cloud, so reduce that cost, and even create bigger efficiencies that currently exist today. So even if you look at the Logit Tax Pro package, it's only $995 in Australia, and that's basically for unlimited lodgements. Okay. So you've got working papers in there and electronic signatures as well. The signatures are an additional cost. But yeah, definitely a fantastic platform to have a look at. I've had many accounting firms already evaluate this system and are currently using it. So the first firm that jumped on was actually a couple of years ago that I know of, and it's actually quite a big firm. They had about 15 employees, and they still use it to this day. So this is more than enough for 90% of accounting firms. Now, don't get me wrong. Obviously, there's some large accounting firms that there's other needs as well, and that's fair enough. It's probably not going to cater for everyone, but this is quite a viable solution. So every time you log in to QuickBooks, you'll basically be dropped at this screen. So this is your QuickBooks Accountant dashboard. So we call it the QBOA in short. So in here, you can see that I have my client list for FKM partners. So anyone that is using QuickBooks and has a data file, you can see that there is a logo in front of their name. And if you actually hover over it, you can see the last time someone's logged in. So whether it's been the small business or the accountant, and the login date. You can also see the version of QuickBooks that is as well. Now, obviously, every accounting firm has clients on various systems such as MYOB, Reckon. It might be like an income tax return client. So you can see here that in QuickBooks, it allows you to have other businesses and other individuals in this list as well. So basically, you can use this as a CRM and document manager, and you can store documents and share them with your clients as well. So if I click on Sam Frost here, I can see that there is no client attached, so obviously no client file attached, sorry, I should say. So they are not using QuickBooks Online. So this is probably an individual, so income tax return client. Now, if I click on Edit Client, you've got various settings in here and details that you can enter. So you can enter the client's first name, last name, phone number, email, their address. If they eventually go onto QuickBooks, you can obviously sign up a subscription through here as well. Now, you can also use this as a CRM tool. So you can see here that there is a Notes tab. So I could leave a note here for the rest of my team. So I could say something along the lines of Baz is due next month. Please follow up client on bank feeds. So I'll save that, and that actually saves it as a note. So you can see here the date, the person that saved it. So if it was someone else in your team, so it might have been another staff member, whether it was Ellen, Mike, John, Sally, you'll be able to see their initials here, the timestamp as well, and obviously the note. So you can pin that as well. So if you pin that, that goes to the top of the list on the right hand side here. So that is from a customer relationship management perspective, that is your CRM tool. There is a bookkeeping tab as well. So in here, you generally, now this is obviously an individual client, so you can't see it in this perspective, but generally you'd be able to see the chart of accounts here. So if I went back to the clients and I chose, let's just say Mobile Phones Direct, so they do have a QuickBooks file. So you can see here that I've left some notes. So we can see here on June the 17th, need to complete tax planning for client. Now if I click on the bookkeeping tab, you can see the last download date of the bank feed. You can see the sign-in date as well, and if the books have been closed off as well. So in QuickBooks there is no rollover period, like there is in older desktop systems like MYOB. There is no rollover period whatsoever, but you can close off your books for like a quarter or like year end. Now there's an account watch list. So here you can see all the accounts. So it's basically an overview of the chart of accounts. So as the accountant, you can just have a quick glance at how the business is doing, and you can also see the last time an account's been reconciled. Now on the right hand side here as well, it actually shows you all the bank feeds. So in this case there is one bank feed that's connected, and it says 82 unaccepted transactions. So these transactions haven't been coded yet into the QuickBooks file. You can see there's obviously one kind of error here because it says one check without payee. Now if I go across on the top, if I go to the right hand side, there is a shared documents area. So in here you can actually share documents between you and the business, or you and the client. So obviously if they're not using QuickBooks, you can upload various documents on here, whether it's legal documents, It might be, copies of bank contracts. It might be things like special purpose reports, tax returns as well. That might be filed on here if you want to file it as a copy. So you can tick upload a document, and you can upload the standard form types, which might be Word, PDF, Excel, etc. So all the main ones. So that is the document manager and CRM tool. Now, to set up the project module, what you actually have to do, so this is effectively to turn on practice management. If you click on the cogwheel up here, so most people don't actually know that you can do this, click on company settings, and then when you go down to advanced and scroll down to projects, you can see that there is a project option. Now I've already turned this on, so it says use project financial tracking, but usually this is off by default, so you have to actually flick that on, and then you can save it. So once that's saved, you'll notice that there will be a project tab that will actually appear in the Your Books area on the left hand side. So this Your Books area is basically a free QuickBooks file that is embedded in your accountant dashboard. So this is basically the practice file. This is where you'll be running, payroll for your staff members, where you'll be able to track all your jobs, so all your projects, expenses, sales, your bank feeds, and obviously from a dashboard level you can see how your practice is performing. Okay. Now, obviously, the first question I guess a lot of accountants would probably ask, can you hide this from your staff members? Yes, you can. So if you go to the team section, you can choose the different access rights within the firm. So you can see I've been set up as the director here, and I'm the master admin, so I'm the highest user. And you can see here that I have Nathan and I have Vanessa, so I have my accountant and bookkeeper that work for me as well. So they both work full time, and I've given them different access rights. So basically here with your access rights, if you click on one of these, you can always make people inactive as well, and you can delete them if someone leaves the practice. You can set their title. You can choose their access rights. So in here is where you choose whether they would have access to the practice file. So effectively, if they're just doing maybe, the billing for customers, generally if it's, the admin's responsibility to do that, then you can give the admin access for customers and accounts receivable. And then you can also decide if they need it for supplies and accounts payable. So you can, generally you'd have to tick the custom option to choose the limited access rights. A full user gives you all permissions, so basically you can see every client file. Basic is generally good for like junior staff members or people that are quite new to the business, where they might not necessarily need to see every client in the business. And then custom is generally if you want further modifications. Okay. Now there is one other area here which is client access, and in here you can actually choose which clients each employee has access to. So the really cool thing about QuickBooks as well is it actually keeps an audit log. So you could have, you could be a large firm with 50 employees, or even let's say 100. So you would have all your staff members in here, and you actually see an audit log based on the practice level. So if someone logs into the file and they do some work and log out, you can actually see when they've logged in and when they've logged out. So if you click on the cogwheel up here, you can go into the audit log. Okay. Now the really clever thing about that as well is on the client side. It basically just shows you the accounting firm logging in. So it says FK and Partners. So even if you have like outsourced divisions and outsourced teams, it basically just says that your accounting practice has logged into the file. Okay, so it's just very nice, neat, and professional. You can filter down the audit log as well if you want to find specifics. So if I go back to clients, so basically just to quickly recap, I've covered the practice list, including the CRM and the document manager, and I've also covered the Your Books area. So the most critical component is to turn on projects, and in projects is where basically all your jobs will flow in. Now, so you understand this bit, so the work tab is the practice management. Okay, so this is where you've got your job task workflow. So you can assign jobs and tasks for your staff members. And when you create those projects, so let's just say it's for a client that requires a quarterly BAS or a yearly income tax return. As soon as you create the project in the Work tab, it will flow down into projects. Okay, so if I show you a quick, so this happens when you turn on that project, so that project feature. Okay. Now, if I create, so let's just say I've created this one previously. So I created one for Mobile Phones Direct. So they were a new client that just came on board this week. So if I actually click on that, what I've done here is I've put them on a yearly retainer. So I'm doing an annual service for them, which includes a quarterly BAS, compliance at end of year, and tax plan. Okay, so I can set the status right from the get-go, whether it's in progress already by the team members, if it's blocked. So if we're obviously blocked is generally used in that case where you might be waiting on the client to send you certain documents, whether that's been completed or cancelled. Now you do have a due date as well, so if it's 12 months, you generally set it 12 months from now. You can assign it to a team member as well, so if they're in charge of the whole project themselves, or like an overviewer, I guess, that can be like the approver if it's one of the partners, and then you can have all the tasks associated to different staff members. So basically, you would create a project, or what we call, I guess you could call it a job. So the project/job would be created, and then you can create as many tasks in that project or job. So this is an annual service, and the way I've done it is I've set up a quarterly BAS in here. So you can see quarterly BAS for June, September, December, March. And then I've got for August here, I've got work papers, the company tax return, and the special purpose reports. Okay. Now these are very kind of generic; they're very high level. But obviously, if you're like a BAS agent, let's just say, you might have a more detailed checklist in here. So you might have, reconcile bank accounts, reconcile back to balance sheet, reconcile back to income statement. So you can be more specific with these tasks. So you can click into each one and assign them to different staff members and assign different due dates. Now you can duplicate this as well. So obviously, if you set up a lot of clients like this where you provide an annual service, you can duplicate this and you can just use this as a template for clients that you sign up. Now this could also be, like let's just say you're doing a lot of fixed and monthly packaging, which is I know where a lot of accounting firms are kind of moving to. You can create this as like a growth package or an essentials package, and then you can have everything in here that you'll generally provide in those packages. Okay, so if I click out of this, so you can see that this is still here. Now, the really cool thing with the Work tab is this shows you a complete overview of the practice and the job workflow at this current state. So in here you can filter by clients, by the firm only. So if you have firm specific tasks, you can see all your clients. Okay, if you'd rather just type in the name and pick from a list, you can do that. You can filter down by staff members, so you can see what individual staff members are working on. And you can also choose the types, so whether it's a project, a task, or a request. Now requests, if say for example, you might have a client that's behind by 3 years, you can actually request documents off them. So you can see here there's a button up the top that says create client request. And it might be for bank statements. So it might be for bank. Oh, sorry, apologies. So bank statements for 2015. So you can choose what client that's for, the due date, and again you can assign a status and the details that you'd like to write to your client. So basically this will actually send your client an email, and it'll actually, if they're on QuickBooks, it'll actually come into their QuickBooks file and it'll say, hey, you have a notification from your accountant. So basically then they can attach the documents and send it back to you. Okay, so you can preview that and send. So it's quite a clever feature, and it just makes it really nice and easy because you can just kind of very easily just request the documents straight from the system. Now, going back to from the project perspective, so any project that you create here, and you can see I've got a few. I've got one here for the project's a company tax return for the Cheesecake Shop. You can see I put that request through for John Smith for bank statements in 2014. So you can see that from here you can also sign the progress. So this particular quarterly BAS June for Mobile Phones Direct is in progress. Okay, so let's just say, a client, you might be waiting on a client to sign something off, so you could put it in the blocked status because you're waiting for the client to get back to you. So that's why we've put that in there. Okay, so you can see I've got various ones here for income tax return, company return, quarterly BAS. Now the really clever thing is this kind of gives you a canvas view, so you can see what's due today, what's due this week, what's due next week, and the next 30 days. If you see these messages that pop up like this, and they've got a little QuickBooks logo, that's actually showing you that this particular client, Mobile Phones Direct, has 82 unaccepted transactions. So these transactions haven't been coded. Now, the really clever thing about this is if you click on this, this will actually take you into the client file. Okay, so this will actually throw you straight into the banking screen, so you can actually do the reconciliation from there. Okay. So if I go back into the accountant level, so you can do that just by clicking accountant up on the top left, and then I go back to work tab, I'm back in the practice manager. Okay, now as the accountant, if I don't like this canvas view, a lot of people prefer like a list or a checklist type view. Up on the top right here, you can actually change that view as well. So you can see here all your clients and the jobs / projects that you're currently either working on or your staff members are working on. So you can see here there's a few that are blocked, some in progress. Most of these have been assigned to me. You can tell I've been quite a very busy person, but obviously, if you assign these to different staff members, you can also see what they're up to. So Nathan White, he's off on annual leave. He doesn't have any jobs for this month. Okay, so if I want to go back to the canvas view, I can click on the top right there and that will throw me back. Now, any of these that you want to click into to find more information, let's just say the Cheesecake Shop company tax return, you can click on that, and what it will actually do is it'll open up and it will actually show you that particular project. So in here you can also add different notes, and these notes are obviously not shown to the client. So here you can store notes privately between you and your team. So this is obviously not seen by the client. Now you can repeat this as well, so if you have monthly BAS, quarterly BAS, or even a yearly tax return, you can actually set a repeat option, and you can see here you can set a repeat. So whether it's yearly, bi-weekly, monthly, quarterly. And you can choose whether it ends or it does not end. Now the really cool thing, and actually a feature that I really like, it actually shows you the calendar year as well. So it actually shows you the date and it shows you what it actually looks like on here, which is quite clever. So even if you did like weekly, you can see the dates. So you can see it shows you it's going to be the 19th of June, the 26th of June, and the 3rd of July if you choose weekly. So quite a clever feature. So I don't want to save this, so I'm going to click Don't Save. Now, the one really cool feature, and this has actually been this actually launched a while ago, so it's actually been in the system for a while, but most advisors aren't actually aware of this, is every time you create a project, and this is again why we turned on the projects in your books. Every time you create a project, so let's just say quarterly BAS June, it automatically flows into the projects area into the books. Now the really cool thing about this is you can obviously, this is where real kind of practice management kicks in, because you can assign against these projects. Okay, so if I click on, let's say for Sam Frost here, so he's an individual tax return client. If I click on Sam Frost, I can see here, income tax return, that's the project. It's still in a to-do status, Sam Frost. I've even written here that's, we generally charge him $110 for this income tax return. Again, these are just notes that are for the practice, so the client doesn't see this. You can see here that I've actually already invoiced him for $110. So obviously the work hasn't been done yet, but he's already been invoiced, so this might have been from a previous year. Now, add project. So to every project you can add an invoice, you can receive a payment, add an expense, quote, time, or bill. Okay, so effectively any type of project you create, whether it's an income tax return, a BAS, a company tax return, you can assign these things to a project. Okay, so if I click on transactions, so one, you have an overview of project profitability, unbilled time and expenses, and non-billable time. So you've got a few different reports here that you can run. If you click on transactions, you can see here that I've already invoiced him for this particular job. So again, I've just done this just to show you what the system's capable of. If I click on that, that will take me into the invoice directly. I can see here Sam Frost income tax return, and it's already in here. So we've got the GST and the amount. If I want to give the client a discount, obviously I can give them a discount. Now with QuickBooks, obviously, let's just pretend this is a quarterly BAS. You can actually bill the client quarterly for this job, as a lot of accounting firms might do, or if it's yearly. So down the bottom, you've got an option of make recurring. So in here, you can choose whether it's scheduled or a reminder. You can do it in advanced as well, and whether you want it to actually send out the email automatically. So basically, you can get the system to automatically recur invoice, so whether it's a daily, weekly, monthly, or yearly interval. And you can choose a start date and an end date on that as well. So quite handy little feature there for accountants. Now I'm going to actually go back into that invoice because I'm going to show you one more thing. Basically, you can see on the right here, there's a little, and this is just a standard QuickBooks file, so most of you probably already know this. You can actually pull this across, and it actually shows you any time expenses that you can actually add to the invoice. So you can see here that there's billable time for the 18th of June for $200 for an ITR completion. So if I click on add, that will actually add it to the invoice. Okay, so you can do that as well. So if I go back to the projects tab, that will show me a list of all the projects, and again from this level I can obviously filter these, so I can see what's blocked, what's in progress, what's to do. The really cool thing is if I click on any of these, so let's just say here for Mobile Phones Direct, I'm going to click on the annual service quarterly BAS compliance plan. When you click on it, you've got all the details that's actually flowed in through the work tab. Okay. There's a little button up here that says all projects, and you can actually go back into the project view. And this is also broken down by blocked, in progress, to do, so it actually shows you all the different header items. So in here as well, you've got further options, so you can actually change the status from here, and you can delete from here as well. Okay, now you can, every practice is a little bit different, so you can set this up many different ways. Okay, whether you're doing hourly, whether you're doing fixed or value packaging, it might look a little bit different in how you structure this. But you can, quite easily you can jump in here, have a little bit of a play around, and see what structure works for you. But this is just some ideas of what I've seen accounting firms already been able to do, and obviously, this kind of gives you, a way to get off and move away from these legacy client billing solutions that you might be using and might not be in the cloud just yet. So obviously there's a lot of great efficiencies in here. Now whatever I click on, even if I go back to, in this case, income tax return, you can also, and I haven't actually done this, but I'm going to use this example again. If I click on Sam Frost's invoice here, I can actually assign classes as well. So up here you can see that Matthew Pizarski is one of the partners. So here as a class you can see that he's been assigned to this particular invoice. So this is really clever from a tracking perspective because you can have as many classes as you want. So it goes back to what I was saying before when I started this video. You can have, you can basically do actuals versus budgeted. So you can actually see the revenue generated per partner, per staff member, and you can obviously have a breakdown, so do your budgets versus actuals. You can also make this different segments of the actual business, so advisory, compliance, bookkeeping, so you can obviously segment that down. And in every class you can actually have subclasses as well, so you can go 5 sub-levels deep as well. So the one thing that's always been very powerful in QuickBooks has always been the classes and locations feature. Now I haven't turned the locations on, but if you're a multi-site office you can have that turned on as well. Okay, sorry for using that example again, but I figured that's one of the only ones I had, so I'd show you that. So thank you guys. So thank you for listening to this video, and hopefully it's been helpful. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I work with many different accounting firms across Australia, and I've helped many firms actually move from legacy solutions such as Sage, such as MYOB, such as Reckon. So move their client billing, their ledger, bank-link customers. So here to help. If you have any questions, concerns, worries, feel free to reach out.